Israel leads the world in offensive cyber warfare. Now, in 2006, a joint US-Israeli effort is believed to have targeted Iran's nuclear program with a Stuxnet virus, set Iran's nuclear weapons program back by several months. On the 17th of September this year, Israel is believed to have hit thousands of Hezbollah operatives by exploding their pagers. Now, this is the first time possibly that a cyber attack was weaponized into killing and maiming enemies. More recently, a wave of Israeli cyber attacks over the weekend are believed to have hit Iranian digital infrastructure, possibly phase one of Israel's retaliation for the 1st October missile attack from Iran, where Iran launched 180 ballistic missiles against Israeli targets. Joining me to discuss Israel's cyber weapons strategy today are Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director, Intelligence Bureau; Eli Pipsch, Director, International Relations, Israel Defense and Security Forum; Alok Vijayant, formerly with India's NTRO. He used to head the offensive cyber division at the NTRO. And in the studio, I have with me my colleague Deepak Badana, who tracks defense and national security affairs. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Mr. Azad, I want to start by asking you this. You know, Israel has demonstrated once again to the world its ability to carry out the most astounding military operations. I mean, the pager attack, for instance, on the 17th of September is something that possibly even an episode of Fauda could not have come up with. What are your thoughts on this very innovative use of offensive cyber warfare that Israel has developed, and what are the lessons for us here in India, given the fact that we are as, if not as equally vulnerable as Israel is?
You know, I would say that this is one of the most brilliantly conceived operation by Israel. And the pager blasts and so many, there are so many details.
Yes.
That particular kind of attack, how a message, encrypted message goes, and how you hold your pager with both hands. So that's why I would say that this is something which is one of the neatly executed operation, which is extremely successful. It definitely has a tremendous impact already, because in places like Iran, they have banned the use of pagers and walkie-talkies on flights. So in that respect, I would say it was one of the finest. There are so many other details which we need to learn from that. How the whole plan, how the whole manufacturing was outsourced to Hungary, how the entire thing was developed by the Mossad within Israel, assembled, the escape by the X-rays of that particular stuff which was put inside, and how it was booby-trapped. So I would say this is the way to go. But if you're talking about the cyber attacks now, I would say this attack is definitely more deadly than the missile attack which was launched by Iran, and against which the defense minister had made a statement, mind you, that our attack is going to be more lethal and more precise. And I think nothing could describe it better, because you look at the lines of communication, the transport, the government agencies, most of this have been paralyzed. The extent of the damage we don't know, but I would say this has all the makings of that Stuxnet operation, which was again designed by the US and the Israel to weaken Iran's nuclear capability. Once again, I would say this is certainly more lethal and powerful than the missile attacks, and it's good that Israel didn't go for those missile attacks, because it would create a lot of collateral damage too.
Right. Interesting observations there, Mr. Azad. I'm going to ask Eli this question. Eli, your defense minister said that the Israeli attack is going to be more lethal and more precise. Mr. Gallant said that. Do we believe that the cyber attack, we are still trying to understand what the dimensions of this attack on Iran over the weekend are indeed? Do we have reason to believe that this is like a Stuxnet part 2? What do we know about this attack on Iran over the weekend?
Well, that's kind of the beauty, that there is very limited general knowledge. There's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of thought, a lot of discussion
Right.
about what happened. Frankly, Israel hasn't taken credit or hasn't owned responsibility for what happened,
Yes.
what's happening. And I think that is exactly what Minister Gallant was trying to suggest, was that we haven't even scratched the surface of what Israel's capabilities are.
Yes.
And already, Iran is suffering, as my colleague on the panel was saying earlier, about some of the different ways how it's hampered their communication.
Yes.
It has also led to the point where Iranians are questioning each other's allegiance. They're trying to figure out where are the breaks. That is having a tremendous impact as well. The impact of these kinds of attacks, some are self-made, some may be sabotage, some are done outside, could have been done by Israel, could have been done by other allies. You know, Iran has a lot of enemies, not just Israel. And there is a clear recognition right now that Iran is not nearly as strong as it projected to the world, and that attracts a certain amount of potential attacks as people are plotting for additional vulnerabilities. I expect we'll see more of that in the coming days.
Absolutely. We will see more of that in the coming days. You know, Mr. Azad, I was in Israel a fortnight ago, and I was speaking to someone, you know, a restaurateur from northern Israel, and he told me that, you know, on the 7th of October last year, it was a black day for Israel because they had been caught napping by what happened, the savagery of Hamas's attack. But on the 17th of September, what Israeli intelligence agencies did restored the confidence of the public in the ability to attack and strike and, you know, strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. He said that, look, we're living at a time when Hezbollah is even afraid to go to the toilet now because they're worried about things exploding. You know, what is the lesson for us here in India, given the fact that we are an IT superpower, but our spends on offensive cyber warfare seem to be very meager in comparison, and we haven't pulled off operations of this kind before. What lessons could the Indian agencies be imbibing from what's actually going on in West Asia right now?
No, I certainly appreciate the concerns expressed that why we are not being so organized as it were. But you know, things have improved considerably as far as our cyber capability is concerned now. And there are many of the operations which are being conducted which cannot be told here, as my NTRO colleague would also agree. But there is one thing, of course, which is true, that there has to be more coordination, there has to be more streamlining of the, like in Israel. You know, Israel has this IDF unit, I think it's 8200, which is extremely capable. And you know, the most important thing we can see here as an important point mentioned also by my previous panelist was that, you know, that perception of that Iran is not that strong as it were. In terms of, if you see the cyber capability, Israel is one of the superpowers. So there is no comparison. You know, you see the attacks which are coming against us by some of the Chinese hackers which have been employed by the Chinese PLA. But in terms of an organized cyber capability, yes, we have to do a lot of coordination. That I totally agree. And because that is going to be the future of warfare, and very, very effectively demonstrated. In fact, I would say this much even, that the Israel attack on Iran has proven that the cyber attack is the next world's weapon for warfare.
Right, absolutely. Very important observation there, Mr. Azad. The fact that it could be the next generation of warfare. In fact, we've seen a cyber attack, Deepak, being converted into a kinetic attack. I think that was the biggest takeaway from the from the pager operation. But I want to ask Alok Vijayan this. Alok, I've heard numerous lectures of yours. You were a member of NTRO at the very cutting edge of cyber operations, offensive cyber operations. Without giving any operations away or spilling any national secrets, tell us this point that Mr. Azad made of the need for organized cyber capabilities. When you're looking at India, a country that is so huge, we have tens of thousands of IT engineers, software professionals, ethical hackers, all of this. How do you bring them all together under one umbrella to coordinate them better, to organize them better for the kind of challenges that we are facing in the world today?
Yeah, in fact, Sandeep, it's a very nice question that you asked. Uh, it's not that we have not done anything so far as offensive cyber is concerned. We have gone quite ahead. We have done a lot of good stuffs. As Mr. Azad also said, being in the helm of affairs at the national security, Mr. Azad is privy to a lot of things, and so am I. So it's not that we have not done anything, but when such kind of an operation at the global level, when it takes place, there's a lot of learning for us, to take forward and maybe to imbibe in our own strategies, some kind of things. So Israelis' response to the Iran's activities, it's an excellent example of a hybridized warfare.
Right.
As you rightly said, that this was the first time when a cyber attack has got added on with the kinetic strikes and so on. So, in fact, we saw a very unique combination of the abilities in the electromagnetic spectrum, the cyber warfare, the supply chain, affecting the supply chain through influence operations, kinetic strikes, and as well as simultaneously information operations going side by side. It was a unique combination. The way they carried it out, it's a lot of learning for us. The problem with us is not that we are not there in individually into these particular domains, these 5 domains of hybrid warfare. We are there, but the problem is that we are not coordinated well. And like you hear about Israel, you have one unit which is responsible for doing this entire thing. We have so many units that creates a lot of confusion because while you are carrying out action, one action can be it's counter action to an action taken by the other agencies and so on. So there is a definite need of actually an agency which has got executive responsibility as well as under its forefold, it has got the entire the technical team working under it, so that it is all coordinated at one location. It should not be in silos where because in hybridized form of warfare, you cannot you have to have the right timing for doing certain things. So if anything comes on the cyber side front of it, the information operations has to go side by side. The kinetic strikes have to be synchronized with the entire these aspects together. Yes. So there has to be one agency which does it. Today in our country, we have almost like 13-14 agencies who are responsible for typically into offensive cyber, which is something which is very counterproductive. And one learning is that the pager attack. It was a very good example, excellent example of a supply chain infections.
Right.
So how do you actually control the supply chains? What is that, the one weak point where you can actually use it for your strategic advantage? That is something very, very interesting to actually observe what Israel has done it. In fact, Israel always leads us in security domain through their own examples, and so they have done it this time also. But only catch here is that this game of asymmetry is all about innovations and out-of-the-box ideas. And these ideas play because somebody in Israel would have got an idea, okay, let's go back to the pager. Yes. But, there has to be a reason for the Iranians to actually come back, or Hezbollah to come back on pager from the most modern equipments. So there has to be information domain also acting side by side by saying that, okay, look, your communications are not safe because the kinetic strikes have proven that the moment you emit something, you strike there.
Yes.
So those kind of information and perception also has to be managed side by side. So
right.
these are all
it's a very coordinated kind of strategy. But Alok, the thing that jumped out at what you just said to me was the fact that we have 13 to 14 agencies all engaged in offensive cyber. And I think Mr. Azad was very polite about the fact when he said that we really need to organize our cyber capabilities together. But Deepak, before I come to you, quick question to Eli. Did Israel ever have this problem, Eli, the fact that you have multiple agencies, because you have the Army, Navy, Air Force, of course you have the IDF, but every agency, every arm of the armed force would have its own offensive capabilities as well. How did the need for a unit 8200, for instance, arise? The fact that it's a unit that we believe is exclusively dedicated to cyber warfare.
Well, people always ask Israel, or Israelis or the IDF, why is IDF so effective? Why is it so successful? What's the secret sauce? And many IDF officers will say it's having a very tangible, threatening enemy. Because that enemy is on our doorstep and we constantly feel threatened, we don't have the luxury to be theoretical. All of our actions have to be very practical, have to go into be able to be move into action very, very quickly. So I'm sure there certainly is, any entity like a military has a certain amount of bureaucracy, but we've been enabled to remove some of the fat that kind of get in the way because we have to move into action relatively quickly.
Right, absolutely. A cold start approach, Deepak, as Eli was telling us, the tangible threatening enemy drives you to create quick responses. And while Israel has had its intelligence failures in the past, it's come back spectacularly, like they did on the 17th of September with the pager attacks. And of course, this new attack in Iran that we still don't know the full contours of, but seems to be lethal and precise, as Defense Minister Gallant was saying. But quick thoughts on this, Deepak?
I think the one question that arises, again and again is how safe are we? So one of the critical things about the attack on 17th September was the conversion from, say, cyber warfare to kinetic.
Yes.
Now in a time when we are surrounded by the Internet of Things, where your refrigerator, your door lock, your lamps, the speakers, every single thing is connected with the Internet. What are the possibilities of similar conversions happening, in devices that surround us every day?
Absolutely.
It's the watch on your wrist, it's the phone in your pocket.
It's the watch in your wrist, the phone in your pocket, the pager in your belt, the walkie-talkie in your hand. It could be anything. And if you are an enemy of
your
the
cars
state
for
of
that
Israel,
matter. Your cars for that matter.
you're in big trouble. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for that discussion on Israel's offensive cyber capabilities. There's a lot we can learn from Israel, as we always do. But thank you, Mr. Azad, Eli, Alok Vijayant, and of course my colleague Deepak Badana in the studio here. Great takeaways for us.